day and good afternoon and welcome to a very special webinar. I'm Brian Todd. I work alongside Perry Marshall, and I have here with me today very special guest, Larry Kim, who is the founder of WordStream. And our topic for the day is what Larry calls totally insane ways or totally insane techniques guaranteed to 3x your click-through rate. And it is true, and Larry's going to explain that of all the vital things and vital elements to doing pay-per-click well, particularly Google AdWords pay-per-click well, nothing is more central and more fundamental than click-through rate and knowing and understanding click-through rate. So Larry, we've done webinars in the past and they've been excellent, and I've looked through your notes and know that this one is going to be jam-packed with some very important and cutting-edge ideas. So I want to welcome you, and great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Brian. We've got a really exciting agenda here. Brian, did you want to walk through this, or should I?
I will let you walk through it because I'm sitting here watching with rapt fascination and eager to see what you have to share today.
Sure. So, friends, we've done a lot of research on kind of click-through rates, and today I'm going to be sharing with you sort of what's a good click-through rate. So, what should you be aspiring for in terms of the performance of your ads? Also, going to explain in detail why it matters like a lot, and then the way that we. I thought it would make it a little bit more practical by kind of giving you a recipe for. We'll review the top 1% of the highest performing PPC ads and give you a process for replicating them in your own account. So I think it should be pretty actionable and helpful. And I think we need to talk over this, Brian. Brian, you want to introduce yourself here?
Yeah, you bet. I've been working side by side with Perry in a full-time capacity, Perry Marshall in a full-time capacity since early 2004. We've co-authored The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords. The most recent edition was Mike Rhodes joined us on that, and I really am the nicest guy you'll ever meet. So.
And they're also geniuses. Everyone at Perry Marshall are marketing geniuses. This is my opinion. And I'm Larry, guys. I'm the founder of WordStream, and it's great to be here. Okay, so enough about us. Let's learn a little bit about you. Noel, can we launch the poll? Great. So the first question we have here is just how long have you been using AdWords? And the possible answers are less than a year, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, and over 5 years. Brian, how long have you been using AdWords?
I've been using AdWords since November of 2002.
Oh boy, that's a long time.
Yeah, back in the day of where there were only 2 or 3 ads on the entire page and clicks were 5 cents a piece.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's some ways to maybe not get to 5 cents, but to reduce the cost by 2 or 3 times. Noel, how are we doing on the poll?
We're doing great on the poll. Looks like we have 29% of our users here have less than a year of experience, but then 31% have over 5 years experience, so kind of both ends of the spectrum.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, so that's our only poll question for today, I think, and I just wanted to kind of start with a little bit of a disclaimer here. So we're going to be talking about some pretty crazy stuff today, and it might be even a little bit shocking. And so all I'm asking is that you just keep an open mind, and hopefully I'll have convinced, or we'll have convinced you of some of these ideas by the end of the hour. Also wanted to warn people that if you know anything about me, I'm kind of a data nerd, so I've prepared a lot of data. So we will be sending out the recording, and there's like 100 slides in this deck. So we'll send all the information to you at the end. All right?
There really is a lot of good information in here. I've looked at your slides, so absolutely.
Oh, thanks, Brian. All right, guys. So I was saying earlier that it's a little crazy, and let's start with this notion of the classic A/B ad test, and my belief that it's actually a fairy tale, right? So it sounds crazy because I'm sure we've all heard of one of those stories where, once upon a time there was an AdWords account and with two ads, and we made some changes like the capitalization or punctuation or dynamic keyword insertion or whatever, and lo and behold, we got a 2% increase in conversions. Well, guys, my thinking here is that this is a fairy tale, and I just wanted to give you an example and the reason why I think it is a fairy tale. So let's just do ad A versus ad B. So it's like, ad A is getting 32,000 impressions, has a 1.4% click-through rate. Ad B has a similar number of ad impressions and a higher click-through rate, 2.1%, in a similar ad position. And the question is, which is the winner? And the answer is, it's a trick question. They both suck. So neither of these ads are worth declaring a winner, because not even the one with the higher CTR is any good. And so, how the heck are you supposed to know that? It's very, very difficult to know that in AdWords, because Google only kind of gives you the data of like how you're doing. They don't tell you how everyone else around you is doing. It's difficult to see the forest for the trees. And so, thankfully, WordStream has thousands and thousands of customers, and so using that customer data, I'm able to kind of do some research and give you an idea for sort of what's a good click-through rate, because you have no idea what a good click-through rate is if you're just looking in your account. Google doesn't tell you. And so in this case, if you're in the third position, so obviously the click-through rate is higher if you're in the first position, and it's lower if you're in the 8th position or something like that. So if you are in the third position, Google expects an average click-through rate to be around 3%. And so even that other ad, the B ad, was something like 2.1, and that is still below the average expected click-through rate. And so again, so how did we do this? We analyzed a lot of our accounts, and I'm sharing this data with you. And the point was that even this winning ad is actually a loser when you take a step back and look at the overall ecosystem. And so, the question is, how do you figure out, what's a good click-through rate? Should you, should be swiping left or right when you see these ads? Well, remember that click-through rate kind of expected curve here. So that could be a helpful guide, definitely. But one of the really interesting things about this research is that when I was doing the research, I found that there was a lot of variance. Okay, so this is a very, very typical, like if you think of like income distribution and like actually Perry has this thing called Perry Marshall has this thing called the 80-20 thing where like the 20% are so great and the 80% are so unremarkable. Yep. It's the same thing in ads. Where some of the ads are doing incredibly well, and a lot of them are doing really, really badly. And so, when I stratify this kind of in terms of percentiles, what I can tell you is that the bottom 50% of the ads in the AdWords systems, those that are kind of falling up below the expected click-through rates, I call those donkeys because they're just so unremarkable and they're just ugly, right? But the top 15% of advertisers, they're able to generate 2 times the expected click-through rate. So that, in that case of the third position generating a 3% click-through rate, the top 15% of them are generating double that click-through rate, so maybe 6%, which is remarkable. But it gets better. The top 5% of advertisers can do 3 times the expected click-through rates, and the top 1% of advertisers, which I believe you should aspire to be, it generates a click-through rate equal to 6 times the expected click-through rate. And these I call the unicorns because they're such rare and beautiful creatures, and they have such amazing performance, and they're so beautiful. So that's what we'll be talking today about today. These ad unicorns that have 6 times the expected click-through rate, and how to create a unicorn ad of your own.
And I kind of like the theme of, are you going to be in the 99% or are you going to be in the 1%?
Right. Like if you're going to do this work and spend the money, let's go all in and kill it, right?
Absolutely.
So just here's the same data. I just put it in a table, but just kind of this could be helpful if you're trying to figure out if you're a unicorn or not. But basically, if your ad is in position 1 to 1.5, then the average click-through rate is 6.69. The best 15% is getting 14%, the best 5% is getting 18%, and the top 1% is getting 24%. You see what I mean, Brian? So it's like this. You could use this table to kind of figure out like where you are, because different ads in different positions have obviously have a different average click-through rate. Any questions on this one, Brian?
Just that what you're giving me here is giving so much more context to the question of, hey, is my 2.1% click-through rate really good or not? And I think you've really helped answer that question for me particularly.
Cool. Though that's the intention. So I'm saying that these unicorns ads with high click-through rates, they're really critical and really beautiful and very important. But why are they important? Like why should you be hunting unicorns in your account? And so to do this, we've got to take a step back here and just think about how AdWords actually works, and in terms of the algorithms that power the AdWords system. And they have a very, very unusual system. It's an auction, but it's not just an auction based on who's willing to pay the most. All right, it's like obviously. When someone does a search on Google, there's more than one advertiser showing up for that search because you're not the only company in the world that sells, whatever it is you're selling. And so Google needs to decide which order to show the competing ads in. And it's not just based on who's willing to pay the most. It's a combination of 2 factors. One is how much the advertiser is willing to pay. The other factor is the quality of the ads of the advertisers. And so it's a combination of those 2 factors that determines the ranking of competing ads. It's not just about ranking. The Google AdWords quality score algorithm also impacts the cost per click. So this is a very complicated formula, but what you need to understand here is just that the way that your cost per click gets calculated is it's not your maximum bid. The maximum bid that you specify is just the most you're willing to pay. You always pay less than that, all right? And so the discount based on what you were willing to pay and what you actually pay, that's totally dependent on the quality of your ads. So look at advertiser 1. He was bidding just $2. He's got a quality score of 10. His cost per click, when you run through this formula, it's going to be $1.61. This other guy, that's remarkable because like this other guy, advertiser 4, was willing to pay $8, but he or she can't even get to the top spot. And the guy who got the top spot is paying less. This is $1.61 even though someone else was willing to pay $8. So obviously, you want to be that smart advertiser who is getting the biggest discounts off their cost per click. And the way you do this is by maximizing that quality score. We'll talk about that in just a second. For now, it's just a number between 1 and 10. 1 is like terrible ad quality, and 10 is perfect ad quality. We'll talk about that in just a second.
And Larry, I'll add just a tiny bit of history to this and say that way back in the day, like 2003, 2002 and 2003, when Google introduced this, what you just described was what was so revolutionary about AdWords compared to all the other pay-per-click services out there. Because pay-per-click had been around online for a while, and one of the biggest players was Overture at the time, but Overture just stuck you at the top if you paid the most. And so when you go look at Overture search results, you would just be seeing the advertisers that had the deepest pockets, not the advertisers that were the smartest. Google was different. Their search results were advertisers that were really good, that put really good ads out there, and those showed up on top. and they rewarded advertisers with lower cost per click. And that was really, really cool.
Awesome. That was a very good summary of kind of the system, and people might be curious, like, what's an average quality score? And again, here's where it has an advantage to have so much data. I can just run some reports, and I can tell you that today, the average quality score, in a typical account, you're going to have some keywords with quality score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they're not all going to be 10s, but the average is around 5.1 out of 10. And what I can tell you is that now that I know that the benchmark is around 5.1 out of 10, there's either a discount or a penalty or a tax, that you can see that it's kind of being applied to your account based on what the average quality score of your account is. So if you have a perfect 10, which is very, very rare, perfect 10 across the account, you could think of all of your keywords as being on sale with a 50% discount. And if you have a quality score of 1, which is also very rare, because it's like usually you do a little better than that, but you can think of it as being imposed on by a 400% penalty tax. I think Perry calls it like the idiot tax or something.
Yeah, the stupidity tax, right?
The stupidity tax, meaning you just don't. And the funny thing about these taxes is that it's very like clandestine. Like they don't alert you saying like
right.
your keywords are 400% more expensive. It just kind of happens in the background. Anything to add to that, Brian?
No, it's wow. Like that is it's so egregious the amount you pay if your quality is bad. Wow.
It's not just about the positioning and the cost per click, although those are very big factors. It also it's about the impression share. So impression share is like the market share for your ads, meaning like say you're interested in a certain set of keywords. Google doesn't actually show your ads every time those keywords get shown. They give you like a percent of that market, maybe 50% of the number of searches, and that number, 50% or whatever your share is called your impression share. And obviously, if they're keywords that are relevant to your business, you would want to have more market share rather than less market share. And so what I can tell you is that as your quality score increases, your look at that blue line there. Your search impression share dramatically increases, and if the quality score of your keywords are much lower, like 1 or 2, then you can see that the impression share is like somewhere between 20 and 30%, and so meaning the better the quality of the ads, the more likely Google will actually bother showing it. And the lower the quality of the ads, it's more likely Google will say, like, why do I even bother showing this ad? It's so crappy. I'm not even going to waste anyone's time. And so, like, you can think of it as if you have very, very low quality, it's almost like you're not running ads at all because Google doesn't even feel like they need to show them. And this is for desktop. It's an even more profound impact on impression share for mobile, because as you know, mobile has fewer ad spots. Sorry, let me just go back a second here. The rule of thumb here is that for every increase or decrease in quality score, average for your account, you can expect to see an increase or decrease of impression share by 9%. All right. And then what I'm saying is that it's even more ruthless on mobile because there's so few spots that, of course, Google is even more incentivized to show the very, very top quality results because they only have 2 spots to give away. And so the relationship between impression share and quality score on mobile is twice as rapid. And so it's like every increase or decrease in quality score by 1 point results in a increase or decrease of 18% of impression share on mobile. And then, by the way, mobile is kind of a big deal if you haven't heard. It's like more than 50% of the searches on Google right now. So, I think it's pretty important. If I still haven't convinced you of the importance of quality score, well, let me just add one more little nugget here, and that is that the cost per conversion. So, like it's like not just the cost per click, but the cost per conversion, like what you're paying for leads and sales, it's also largely influenced based on quality score. And when we do regressions across billions of dollars of data, what I can tell you is that, for every increase or decrease in quality score, the average CPA on average goes up or down by 16%. And of course, the reason for this is because your CPA, cost per action, is going to be kind of related to the cost per click, and the cost per click goes up so much and goes down so much that of course that's going to factor into your cost per action. So you really need to be these unicorns and not these donkeys. The key takeaway here for this section is just get a really, really high quality score rather than a low quality score. We'll talk about how that's calculated in just a second. Anything else to add here, Ryan?
No, I love your graphics, by the way. I'm just struck again how much it pays to have really high quality scores and what kind of tax you really pay when you don't.
Right. So what's really confusing for people is like, how is this calculated? Because they don't actually tell you. It's like it's not explained really to any detail on their website. But that's why you're on this webinar, hanging out with me and Bri, because we have the answer here. We've reverse engineered how quality score is actually calculated, and it's actually not that difficult, because Google gives you so much data in your accounts that if you know a little bit of math, you can just kind of figure it out. And what I can tell you is that quality score is almost entirely based on beating the expected click-through rate for a given ad position. So Google expects certain click-through rate performance out of every different ad position. If you are above average in terms of the click-through rate, you will have an above average quality score. If you are below average, below the expected click-through rate, then you will have a below average quality score. It's that simple. And so now knowing how So we now know that quality score is very, very important. We also know that quality score is based entirely almost on beating an expected click-through rate. So the game is just, how do we get ads that have above average click-through rates so that we can have above average quality score, so that those ads can get lots of impression share at low cost per clicks in high prominent positions with low cost per actions. So how do we create these high click-through rate ads? And that's
Larry, if you'll allow me to interrupt with a question about your last graphic that you showed there a couple of slides ago. For people that are going through and watching the recording of this again, what this graph shows is expected click-through rate throughout all markets, all industries, and all major keyword sets. Is that right?
That's right.
In other words, if I'm selling thermal spray units versus if I'm selling, divorce attorney, or my keyword is thermal spray units versus my keyword is divorce attorneys, is there going to be a different expected click-through rate depending on what the keyword is?
Yes, so we definitely see that across every industry where there's e-commerce or divorce attorney or whatever, that there are different average click-through rates. Okay, right. But what I can tell you is that the ratios of the top 5% being 3 times higher, the top 1% being 6 times higher, those rules hold true across every industry. And so, if you hit me up on Twitter, I can provide more detailed quality score expected graphs based on specific industries like e-commerce or B2B. I just didn't want to have 24 slides in here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I just wanted to caution people against looking at this one graph and saying, "Aha, this is the gold standard right here," and therefore, if I'm above this orange line, I'm great. If I'm below it, I'm not. And because what you're saying is it will depend on the industry, and so on.
It depends on the industry, but it's still, it's not like that far off. If this is an average of all the industries, no one's doing 100% click-through rate and no one's doing 0% click-through rate.
Right.
It's somewhere in the middle there, and it's a pretty tight range.
Okay, got it. A little geeky question for you, but
That's cool. But guys, so we got this notion of these unicorns that I was talking about, and that they are these rare and beautiful creatures with 6 times the average click-through rate, and they really, really do exist. Because I found them in so many accounts, in 1 out of every 100 accounts. And so how do we make it so that you can have one of your own? And so I thought before, kind of disclosing the secrets, I wanted to go through some of the possible ways that you might think that this might work. So one question people always ask me is like, what about dynamic keyword insertion? Like that's that trick where you kind of parrot back the searches, the user's search in the ad text headline or description, whatever it was they were searching for, you just repeat that in the headline. And eBay does that a lot. Is that a really good strategy for doing awesome, amazing ads? And so we looked into it, and what I can tell you is it definitely works if your goal is just to get an above average click-through rate. So meaning, like, do you see how this orange line, Brian? It's kind of like the relative abundance of above average ads. Okay, that's the orange line versus without dynamic keywords insertion. That's the blue line. So like you're more likely to be a top 15% or an above average ad if you're using DKI, dynamic keyword insertion, than not. However, if I zoom into the top 5% and the top 1%, what I'm seeing here is that like the truly, truly remarkable ones, the ones that's 6 times the click-through rate, they're actually less likely to be using dynamic keyword insertion. So my takeaway here is that dynamic keyword insertion, it's a really nice shortcut to getting, upper middle class, like in terms of your distribution point, your performance of your ads. It'll get you like above average, but it's not going to make you the top 1%. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
in order to get to the top 1%, you're going to have to rely on your ad copy, like your benefits and your unique selling proposition, your guarantee, like more kind of tried and true marketing messages as opposed to just gimmickry of dynamic keyword insertion.
Yeah, my summary of that is you can't just mechanically vomit back to people what they're saying in their search terms. You need to actually understand your market.
It's a decent strategy if you're just lazy and you're just setting your sights on being above average, but like it's not a strategy for being remarkable, right?
Right.
So another thing people kick around is this idea of like, what if I add those ad extensions? Those are those bolt-on things that appear above, like below the ads. It's like the call extensions and location extensions and like the maps and the site links for deep linking into sites. Like, can I make a unicorn ad by bolting on 6 different ad extensions? And the answer is that ad extensions absolutely improve quality score and click-through rate, pretty consistently. But it is not like kind of a double or tripling of your click-through rate. Rather, it's kind of a modest improvement of around 8%. Like so, this is I think we're looking at the quality score of ads with and without site links, and I can tell you that with site links you get a 8% higher quality score, and similarly you get an 8% boost in click-through rate. If you're showing site links. So again, I kind of view this as table stakes. Like, sure, it doesn't hurt you to add add extensions like those callouts and all that stuff, but you can't just bolt on ad extensions on a crap ad and hope that it'll become a unicorn. You know what I mean? Like it's just. It's kind of like lipstick on a pig. It's going to pretty it up a little. It'll pretty it up a little bit, but your core ad still needs to be remarkable. Anything to add here, Bri?
No, that's a great metaphor.
All right, so those are two. Like the funny thing is, like if you read stories about how to do your ad copy better, they always say like, oh, use ad extensions and like use dynamic keyword insertion. But actually, those two are not the most leveraged ways of creating these unicorns, and I will now tell you kind of the grand reveal, 4 tips on how to write these remarkable unicorn ads. And so the way I know how to do this is because it was through analytics. I just looked through the different accounts and tried to figure out what the heck are they doing that's so remarkable. And the first kind of commonality that I see amongst these unicorns is that has to do with their targeting. Okay, so the people who are running these accounts are very smart, and they are targeting keywords with very, very high commercial intent. So people are much more likely to click on ads if they are looking to buy something, all right? And they are much less likely to click on ads if they're looking to do kind of like just asking questions or learning information about a topic, such as like who won the War of 1812 versus like toaster oven reviews. They're clearly he or she is looking to buy a toaster oven, so they will be much more inclined to want to click on those ads. And so of course on AdWords you can buy any type of keyword that you wish, but I would really recommend trying to stick to the high commercial intent keywords rather than trying your luck with informational or question keywords. It's true that it's possible to get clicks on those keywords, but it's just less likely. And it's similar. It's just much more likely to get high click-through rates with the high commercial intent keywords. Any thoughts or questions about this one, Brian?
No, this does answer the question that someone asked. Isn't quality score all about the keyword? And you're indicating that the keyword really is an important determining early factor.
Like people are predisposed to clicking on ads if the intent of the search is more commercial, and so you should definitely be keeping that in the back of your mind as you're doing your keyword research.
Yeah, I think one other question that kind of occurs to me as I'm looking at this is the difference between branded keywords and high commercial intent keywords may not necessarily be all that great. It's just that branded keywords by definition mention actual name brands. And as you have this divided out, that usually indicates someone that's ready to buy or almost ready to buy.
Right, because that is just a very high likelihood of purchase if you've added that term into your query. All right, so another thing, this is a relatively new phenomenon, new offer, has to do with ad customizers. All right, so ad customizers are very interesting new technology from Google. It's like 10 times more powerful than dynamic keyword insertion. So in advertising, it's not enough to just tell people to buy your stuff and that you have the right stuff for them. You also have to convince them to buy it now. And that means introducing kind of like a sense of urgency or a fear of missing out. And basically, up until maybe 6 months ago, that you couldn't even do that in AdWords. But in the last 6 or so months, Google introduced this notion of ad customizers, where you could customize not just the keywords, but also like discounts and countdowns. So it's like sale ends in 3 hours, or you can also I don't have a screenshot of it, but you can also use quantity. So like it can connect to your store and say like, oh, only 3 left or 2 left, and so thereby instilling the user with a sense of urgency prior to clicking on the ad. What we're seeing is this dramatically increases the click-through rate and the conversion rate, because they carry that motivation to purchase, not just on the click, but also through to the checkout, because they think that there's only 1 or 2 left. And so, this notion of kind of toying with people's emotions to make them think that the value will not be there forever is very, very powerful, and like they should act now. And one strategy that some of my clients do, which I think is a really brilliant strategy, is this notion of perpetual sales. And like J.Crew does this all the time, Brian. Like I'm on their newsletter and they say like, oh, sale on shirts, 50% off, sale ends Friday. And it's like, give me a break. They're not going to run out of shirts. This is like J.Crew,
right.
That's what they do. But like they keep selling me these dumb things, saying that the sale ends. And of course I'm so dumb, I I just buy them because like I think that I'm gonna miss out. And I'm wearing a J. Crew shirt right now. They got me. But this is like just a very powerful way to. Oh, and this is really interesting, Brian. What we see is that the click-through rate and the increases as the number of hours in the sale decreases. So like it gets to as much as 3 times the click-through rate as you get into like the 11th hour, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Or if you get down from quantity 10 down to quantity 1, like you see a nice ramp in click-through rates. So that's a nice little way of kind of toying with emotions, fear of missing out, to drive out click-through rates. Anything to add here?
It is, well, it used to be that really smart advertisers would do this, but they had to do it manually.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Right, exactly.
Because like you couldn't do it because like people would be in different time zones and like you couldn't say sale ends in an hour. Well, now it actually you specify a time zone like a sale end in GMT or something, and then it'll adjust the actual number based on where the person is searching from. So like yeah, pretty powerful.
Yeah. So, it is so primal. I mean, even your dog or cat responds to seeing something that's about to get taken away, and they jump on it. This is hardwired in every single one of us. So that's very powerful.
So we're getting to my number 3 way to make unicorns, and this is based on the observation that most of the ads, I mean 90% of them on AdWords actually suck. Here's a search for big data solutions, and the reason why these ads suck is because everybody is using the same ad. They're all using a dynamic keyword insertion, and they are not really focusing on anything that's like remarkably different. So I call this a AdWords jackpot, Brian, because it kind of looks like hitting a row of lucky sevens. I hit a row of big data solutions. I got 4 of them, so I win. What do I win? You basically win an opportunity to stand out amongst a bunch of idiot competitors.
It's a jackpot for you, the advertiser, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and here's another example of an AdWords jackpot. It actually looks a little bit like a slot machine because I hit a row of iPads. They all look the same, and so. So to tap into this, like how can you stand out in that crowd and really be remarkable? It's definitely, again, to tap into the customer emotions. I feel kind of funny explaining this one. Brian, do you want to describe this? This is actually a concept that was pioneered by Perry Marshall. So why don't you explain this one to our users?
Yeah, the great Perry Marshall, and we actually have a product in our inventory called the Swiss Army knife, where you can actually learn this whole process from beginning to end. The basic concept is kind of as you're saying, Larry. Most people think that they've tested 20 different ads, when in reality they've tested pretty much the same ad just 20 different times, The idea of the Swiss Army knife is, instead of just parroting back to your customer exactly what everyone else is saying and hoping that you're going to win, you need to touch on some of their deeper emotions. This little graphic here gives you a hint at what some of those are. There's things your customers love, things that your customer hates, people in your customer's world that they consider their worst enemy, people that they consider their real hero, and so on. And some of those concepts really tap into people's emotions. If you go into the next slide, this is an example of an ad you could run on a page where marriage counselors are advertising. The average marriage counselor, local marriage counselor advertising on AdWords just puts up ads that say, Rhonda Kellaway, alphabet soup behind her name, come to my office, and whether it's marriage counselor or divorce attorney, most everyone on the page is just saying the same thing. And just imagine what you have if you have a really powerful emotional ad like the one you just showed, that is unlike everything else here on the page. Larry, I hear you chuckling, so obviously.
It's a unicorn. It's like that ad gets 6 times the expected click-through rate precisely because it's like the core emotion behind that particular search.
Yeah.
So yeah, leverage emotions in these ads rather than just this dumb dynamic keyword insertion. It's the difference between being just, a slightly above average versus a remarkable.
Yep.
There's this other relatively new technology. It's been around for about 2 years, Brian. It's called remarketing lists for search ads. Okay, and so I call this the instant unicorn kind of machine. Okay, so by using this, it's guaranteed to double your click-through rate and cut your cost per clicks in half. It's kind of clever. Rather than targeting your ads and keywords to everybody on the internet, it's targeting only to the subset of people who previously visited your website. And so because they kind of are visited your website in the past, that means that they're familiar with your brand, and brand familiarity is a strong kind of predictor of commerce intent, and so by doing this, it almost always doubles the click-through rate just by enabling this, and cuts your CPCs in half. So you should definitely give that a try. So those are my 4 kind of unicorn recipes, if you will. There's a few more coming, but those are my core 4. I wanted to talk a little bit about effort. So how much work is involved in finding these unicorns? So like I was saying earlier, unicorns are rare. They're remarkable. They're the top 1%. So by definition, you kind of need to test a lot of ads, like 100 on average, to find one unicorn. Now you might be thinking, well, that's no problem. I'm like testing thousands of ads in my accounts, but actually, you got this ad here, how to write a book, comma, fast, and this one here, how to write a book fast with no comma. Like, you're not really testing a different ad here. It's actually the same ad over and over 100 times. And so what I'm saying is you kind of have to try out a lot of different ads, like truly different ads, like different emotional triggers, different benefits and guarantees and unique selling propositions, that kind of thing. But don't be discouraged. It's not as hard as you think, because for most businesses, like the millions of advertisers, this is not fair. I shouldn't call them lazy because they're very, very hardworking people, but they're not leveraging they're not putting enough effort into their pay-per-click marketing accounts. And so typically what we see for the typical advertiser spending, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 a month, they'll have 18 ads total, all right? And what I can tell you is that when you look into an AdWords account, this Perry Marshall's 80-20 rule applies here. 85% of the impressions in a given account are driven from just 5% of the ads. So you don't have to find like 18 unicorns. You just need to find one unicorn that kind of summarizes the core purpose of your business, and you'll be smoking everyone else, because that one unicorn will soak up most of the impressions, and it'll be doing so well. So you just need to find one. I wanted to talk a little bit about mobile because, I was saying earlier, mobile, it's really a game changer. It's kind of, more than half of the searches are coming from mobile devices rather than desktops. So it's a complete sea change. And so I think it's really important that people understand that generally, it's not for every business, but for most businesses, calls are worth a lot more than clicks, because, you think of your own behavior when you're going to browse something on the web. That means you're just looking around. But if you're going to call that business, that means you need it now. You're trying to place an order or a reservation or inquire about something. So calls generally are worth more, and our research shows that they convert 3 times higher than clicks to a website. And so the key takeaway here is that when you're doing mobile ad testing, don't base them on click-through rates to your website, but rather you want to have ads that encourage people to call you. So that's an important thing, and the way that you do it is you can force people so that when they click on that call button or on your ad, you can force it to pop up the call button. Here's just kind of an explanation of how it's such a game changer. So in desktop search, the AdWords game is like they see an ad, they click on the ad, you send them to your website landing page. From there, you lose 97% of them because it's like the valley of death, where most of them don't convert. 3% maybe do convert, and then you capture this lead from 3% of them, and then maybe there's a 50-50 chance that you'll be able to get back to them tomorrow. Mobile conversion funnel, much better. It eliminates an entire leaky stage of this funnel. It says people see the ad, they call your business, and you can talk to them right there on the phone, right at the moment when the idea of whatever to buy whatever you're selling was in their head. And so that's much more efficient than losing most of them. And so I would definitely recommend, in terms of ad optimization, both Bing and AdWords allow you to force people to call you, if they're searching on mobile. I think that's very smart if it's during business hours and someone's there to answer the phone. There's also this notion of call-only campaigns. Again, another relatively new invention that's only about 4 months old, and I think that's it's basically turning pay-per-click marketing into pay-per-lead marketing. So very important for companies like that. Also want to highlight some new mobile ad formats that are far, far more likely to inspire actions like clicks and purchases. So for example, if you're in the car business and you're still using text ads, then you are at a decisive disadvantage over people who are adopting these newer ad formats like this particular image carousel with detailed info automotive ad format where the calls to actions are to get directions to the store or to the dealer or to call them. I think that's a lot more interesting because it kind of pre-qualifies the visitor. They get to see the awesome pictures of the car, and they kind of know, what the price is and the horsepower and the EPA and all the mileage. And so when they call, they it's kind of like it's probably to schedule a test drive or something as opposed to just kick the tires. It's the same for credit card applications where you can compare rates and shop. There's these new ad formats for buying insurance online, and where you can get ratings of the local agents and call the agent directly. And Google is rolling out more of these every week. So just keep checking back to see, do they have something for your industry, because their goal is to roll out 20 more of these this year. So we're kind of low on time here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Google Display Network. So far we've been talking about search ads on Google Search, but a lot of people also advertise on Google AdWords using the Display Network, the image ads. And my point here is that high click-through rate and high quality scores is equally crucial for display ads on the Google Display Network. So they don't tell you anything about this, again, because they don't always document it. It's annoying. But what I'm telling you is that quality score definitely exists on the Display Network. For every 0.1 increase or decrease in click-through rate for those display ads, you can yield a plus or minus 20% increase or decrease in the cost per click for those display ads. So it's the same concept, but it makes sense because why would Google want to show ads on the Display Network that are useless? Of course, they would want to reward good ads. So how do you get high click-through rate ads? Well, it's so easy. Most of the display ads on the Google Display Network aren't even image ads. They're these kind of text ads that are masquerading as display ads. So 2/3 of display ads on the Google Display Networks are actually text ads. So the key takeaway here is just, if you're going to do display ads on Google Display Network, take the effort of actually making a nice image and trying to, something that shows off your product or your brand or something compelling. But just going to images, it gives you a huge benefit.
I didn't realize it was 68% of display ads that are actually just reworked text ads.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The bar is low here.
Yes.
That's your competition basically. You can come up with something really, really clever with beautiful imagery if you're selling vacations, like a nice beach or something, and then the other guy has a text ad saying book a vacation. It's text. Of course you're gonna go with the one that kind of inspires. Guys, the emotions like are very, very important. So if you think of like all the clickbait that you see in your Facebook feeds or you know, at the bottom of articles, like those Outbrain things, there's certain emotions that make people click on stuff. You know, have you ever clicked on an article and you're like, why did I click on that? It's because the headline kind of compelled you to. You had to know what it was about, and it's because they got you with one of these emotions. And basically, my idea here is that you need to make your display ads look more like those BuzzFeed Upworthy contents. Like, first they try to kill Jackie, and then this incredible rhino shows up. Whoa, like, what's this about? I absolutely need to click on this. You know, let's see this typical teenage boy go through a typically female experience and see how he feels about it. Like, what? Like, that's curiosity. So you just you should be thinking of these emotional connections, just like how the clickbait headlines do it at the New York Post or whatever. And so you know, we only have like 1 or 2 minutes left here, but I wanted to just talk briefly about Twitter and Facebook ads, which is also an emerging kind of market for pay-per-click marketers. And you know, I'm at this point, you might think I'm a little bit obsessed about quality score, but it is true. There's quality score on Facebook and Twitter, and it is incredibly important. They just call it something different. So in Facebook, it's called a relevancy score, but it's the same idea. The higher the relevancy score, you'll get more engagement. More engagement will give you a higher relevancy score, and that higher score will mean more ad impressions at a lower cost per engagement. Same thing in Twitter ads. Again, they didn't really document this very well, but just in the last 3 weeks, they published a little bit in their documentation. I discovered they're calling it quality adjusted bid, and basically, you know, it has to do with whether or not the tweet that you're promoting, are users resonating? Is it resonating with users? Are people replying to it, favoriting, retweeting, viewing it? If so, then those are given adjusted higher bids, even though you're bidding less. And if not, they penalize. And so just here's kind of the research. Like, I just did some research, and what I can tell you is that for every point increase or decrease in engagement rate, that kind of results in a plus or minus 5% increase in cost per engagement for these ads. And look here. Here's like an actual snapshot of my Twitter ads campaigns, and I can show you that the engagement rate, if I can get it to like 60%, the cost per engagement is 1 cent, whereas if it's 7%, I'm paying like 8 cents. So that's a pretty big difference in terms of the cost per engagement. And it's not just about the cost per engagement; it's also about the impression share. So you know, as you can see, this is a campaign that I'm running for over a week. Every day that goes by, Twitter is less and less interested in showing my thing because it's older and older and older, and so it's not fresh. And so the engagement goes down, and so people so Twitter doesn't want to show it as much. And the same thing in Facebook. Makes total sense. All right, so we're at the end of my you know, 14 epiphanies or whatever it was. I lost count. I just want to quickly summarize what we talked about today. In a nutshell, if you have a great click-through rate that is above average, then that's great success. You're going to have lots of impressions, good kind of visibility in terms of your ad positioning, good impression share, low cost per clicking, low cost per conversion. Below average click-through rate, that's going to be the complete opposite. You'll have low quality scores and you'll have terrible outcomes. And my tips here are to focus on the types of optimizations that we highlighted that actually make a big difference and increase click-through rates by 3 to 5 times, not just 3 to 5%. So that means not focusing on commas and capitalizations. I mean, you can still focus on that, but that's not a strategy. That's just table stakes. Instead, you should be focusing on like the emotional things and leveraging the new features and functions that create urgency, et cetera, et cetera. And that this notion definition of quality score matters on Google Display Network, Twitter, or Facebook. It's the future. Like, they want the ads to be useful, and so you have to put a little bit of effort into trying to come up with really creative, interesting ad experiences. And so, a long time ago, the idea was to get a low click-through rate strategy. Why? Because impressions were free, and you only had to pay for the clicks, and so people would actually intentionally try to sabotage their own ads to get low click-through rates. That is no longer a viable strategy. You should say no to low click-through rate, because basically what that'll do is that you'll end up getting fewer clicks, but they'll charge you like 5 times more. You're better off being more specific with your keyword selection and trying to get as high a click-through rate as possible on those core set of keywords. So yeah, don't settle for average. Be a unicorn, not a donkey. Hey, guys, I have a really cool free tool. It's called the Google AdWords Grader, and the cool thing about this is that it'll actually rate your click-through rate and your quality score and tell you how you compare to the benchmarks of other companies in your industry that are spending similar size budgets in your country. And so it's kind of like Zillow for AdWords. And the way that this works is I've got hundreds of thousands of accounts here. So basically, I can give you a really good instant PPC audit in just 1 minute or less, and it'll give you an exact kind of determination of whether or not you're a unicorn or a donkey, as well as how to become a unicorn if you are a donkey. So Noel, do we have time for the poll here? Okay. So as the poll question here is, are you interested in getting your AdWords account graded by WordStream, a free trial of WordStream Advisor, both or neither? Brian, any thoughts about what we just talked about here? I know it was pretty fast.
On the grading specifically, or on some of the other topics that you covered?
Anything at all? Any closing thoughts here?
Oh yeah. Well, I've a couple thoughts. Number one, so many of our customers have benefited from doing your grading process, and it's a first really valuable little piece of outside third-party feedback on your AdWords accounts that has made a huge difference for so many of our customers. A comment for some of our customers, for example, who want to insert emotion in their Google ads, but they're like, well, I can't use like Huffington Post headlines or BuzzFeed headlines for my market. I sell accounting software or something like that. The principle is the Swiss Army knife principle. Just says, what are the biggest fears that people have when they come looking for you and your service? What are the things they're most afraid of, the things they hate the most that they're trying to get a solution for, or what are the things they daydream about the most that they would really like to have? And you can write very plain, straightforward ads that talk about those things and have emotional power without having to look like a BuzzFeed clickbait headline and so on. So just a little insight on that. Larry, any further things you wanted to add to that?
No, but do we have any questions from our listeners today?
Yeah, and I just touched on, someone was asking about ERP software, and what I just said was kind of a comment on that. People were asking about ad customizers, and they seem very e-commerce focused. How about B2B and lead gen? Can you use ad customizers for that? Does Google give you a little bit of freedom and leeway about what you offer? Like, for example, could you talk about a webinar that's going to take place in 24 hours using ad customizers, or is it more restrictive than that? Hope you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah, sure. I would just go with some kind of like you're kind of making it up. That's the issue. It's like you're saying like only 5 spots left. Register now or something. You could do the countdown, and you could do the timer thing. Like
right.
It's tomorrow or it's today. The webinar is today. Like to instill a little bit of urgency. Although it's not going to be the same as like. Like sale ends, 50% off, this Friday in 2 minutes. But you know, it's gonna help.
So you also mentioned you showed us several new innovations, including some of the new kinds of mobile ads. Is there a place we can go? One customer asks, is there a place we can go to check for new Google innovations each week?
There is. It's like the Google AdWords blog, or we always blog about all the most interesting ones, and you could just check out the WordStream blog.
There you go. So you kind of 80/20 it for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean it's so much junk that gets like released. You know, it's hard to it's like 1,000 things a year, right? So it's hard to know.
That was my experience. Yes.
So I'll keep up with it, and you know, just highlight sort of the top things you absolutely need to know about. If you go to the WordStream blog.
Excellent. Well, I believe we're running up against our time break here. So, Larry, this has been terrific. You educated all of us here, I think, very, very fast on some really important fundamentals. Understanding, you know, understanding expected click-through rate and so on is really, really important to quality score and so many other things you shared. Larry, I really appreciate it. I know our customers really appreciate it. And I encourage folks to go and get their AdWords account graded by WordStream. So many of our customers have benefited from that. Larry, this has been a treat.
Thanks, Brian. It's always great to do stuff with the Perry audience. Have a great afternoon, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.